So it would be nice to generate similar log entries for subtraction, multiplication, and so on. And of course, that means we can grab that code here and copy that over to subtract, use subtract here as an identifier, and that actually is all we need to adjust. But again, that means we're duplicating code here. Now we already have one thing in common in all these functions here. We call create and write output. Now why don't we create a similar function for creating our log? So I'll add a new function here where I say write to log. And this expects to get the, let's say, operation identifier or whatever you want to call it, the previous result, the operation number, if you want to call it like this, so the number we used in the operation, and the new result. Now these are very long names here, and to make this easier to read, I'll now actually also split this in multiple lines. With the code formatting shortcut, my IDE actually does this automatically. You can do that without issues. JavaScript understands this. You can write multi-line code. You have commas between your arguments here, and therefore JavaScript is able to understand where your function parameter list starts, here with the opening parentheses, and where it ends. And you can write this across multiple lines. It's not a must do, but I'd say it's a bit easier to read. So that's my write to log function, which gets all these arguments. Now in the function body, I in the end want to do what I did here. So I'll cut that code from add and add it here, create the log entry. And now, of course, all the values I use here are the values I'm getting here as parameters. So for operation, I use my operation identifier. So this argument I'm getting here. For previous result, I use previous result. So here I have the same name for the argument I'm getting as for the key I'm using in the object. You can do that, you can avoid it if you prefer. It won't clash because, of course, these are two totally different places where you use it. So here JavaScript knows that this here on the left side of the colon is an identifier in the newly created object, and it would never look for a variable of that name because you can't use a variable here. And on the right side, it knows it needs a value, so it looks for a valid value, and it could be something hard-coded, like some string you enter in place, or it could be a variable that holds a value. So here, JavaScript will look for a variable, or in this case, for a parameter, which is like a variable, and therefore it will take that variable's or that argument's value. For number, I want to use operation number, and for result, of course, new result. And now this is added, and I also log this. And now we just need to call write to log and provide all these pieces of information, so these 4 arguments. So here in add, we can call write to log like this. And now the identifier could be add. Then our previous result, and my IDE here gives me some auto-completion support to tell me which value for which parameter I now need to enter. So here for previous result, that would be the initial result variable value, which I have stored here, so that this is provided to the function. For the operation number, that would be the entered number, which I want to pass into the write to log function. And for the new result, that would be, well, current result at this point of time, right? Because we change it here, so 2 lines thereafter, it's still the same result, and therefore I pass this to the write to log function. And now we can copy that and call that here in subtract as well, leave everything as it is, but change the identifier, and do the same here for multiply. So here I'll add multiply as an identifier, and of course do the same here for the division and add divide as an identifier. And now we're reusing this write to log function to create our log object with different dynamic data which we add in, which we get as parameters in the function, which we then use to build that object, which we then add to our array, which we then log to the console. So let's give that a try. Let's save that and reload. And now deduct 5. So we have -5 here. We have an entry in the array. We see the operation was subtract. Previous result was 0. Number now is 5 or was 5. Result is -5. If I try to multiply this with 7, got a new entry in the array. This one is it. Previous result -5, number 7. We multiplied it, so the new result is -35. And now if I divide this by, let's say, 2, got a new output here. the void number is 2, previous result is minus 35, result is therefore the new result is therefore half of that, minus 17.5. So that all seems to work. We're able to log that, we're able to reuse that logic, and we're able to do this basic work with our JavaScript object here.